now time for our main program of the day. And to get us started, we're going to invite up Jeff Wright, a friend of Rotary. Jeff, whose father, Howard S. Wright's company built the Space Needle, was only 4 years old at the time and probably still claims to be the youngest person to ascend the needle during its construction period. He tells the story of the elevator trip up, grabbing his father's knees in the elevator and hanging on for dear life. I'm not sure he's still hanging on, but years later, Jeff is now chairman of the Seattle Space Needle Board. Jeff will give us an update on the center and what's happening around there. Jeff, welcome to Rotary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You know, I just want to start with tourism does matter. And this building is built on tourism. The Space Needle is built on tourism. The Chihuly Garden and Glass is built on tourism. And though it's important that we have our local support, tourism does matter, and it affects all of us in this room. So just, Suzanne, just last plug for you there. You know, it's being in this room is really special. In 1980, or in the early 80s, the Sheraton was built. We had a restaurant here called Fuller's. And to make Fuller's special and uniquely Seattle, they wanted a local artist. And the artist they reached out to was Dale Chihuly. And that was my father and his partners. And so it's really special for me to be here 30 years later and be in a partnership with Dale and have the Chihuly Gardens and Glass. When the Seattle Center in the mid-90s was looking to do something with the Fun Force had run its course. They had gone through all sorts of ideas. And we looked over at that property, which is immediately to the west of the Space Needle, and thought, what can we do? How can we make a vibrant change? How do we really sort of make the Seattle Center relevant, bring people back to the center, and attract not only locals, but tourists to come? And an idea that immediately came out is Dale. Dale is an authentic Northwest artist. He is an icon. He has worldwide recognition, and it was a very easy decision for us. When we approached Dale, I was very nervous, and one of my happiest moments professionally is, Dale, when you said yes. So now we're 3 years later. We have our building open. We've been open about 23 days, and Dale, it's been a wonderful opportunity to work with you. Leslie, it's been great to work with you too. You know, when you get Dale, you get Dale and Leslie, and it's a wonderful team. So we're going to show a short video, and then afterwards Dale will come up and Leslie will come up, and they'll speak to you directly. So if we can get the video, someone has that? Thank you.
I've often been asked, what would I like to do that I haven't done? And the first thing that comes to mind is that I'd like to build a conservatory or a glass house and to design everything that goes inside it.
I think ideas come a great deal from being alone. You know, even though I work with a big team of people all day long, I happen to be an early riser, so I'm often up at 4 or 5 in the morning and have several hours, you know, to be on my own and think about things.
There's just all sorts of possibilities with glass. I can't think of too many materials that haven't been exploited, except for glass.
One night I melted some stained glass because I had this little kiln because I was fusing the glass together. I put in a piece of iron pipe that I probably bought at the hardware store and blew a bubble. I had never seen glass blowing before, but there was a picture on the wall. I remember the picture clearly, of a glass blower with his cheeks all puffed out like he's blowing a trumpet. So from that point on, I wanted to be a glass blower. In 1971, myself and some friends started the Pilchuck Glass School. The Pilchuck Glass School really is what established Seattle as the preeminent glass center of the world. Not just Seattle, this is spread out into much of the Northwest. And every summer we went back to Pilchuck, which was an experimental glass workshop. It was kind of a school, but more than anything, it was a place where we developed ideas and experimented back when we didn't really care about sales or anything like that. And so nothing held us back from doing a lot of experimentation.
The whole idea of making art, as far as I'm concerned, just comes from just doing it over and over and over. You just have to be making a lot of mistakes. Finally, you've just done so many thousands of pieces that it becomes sort of natural. But you got to go through 5 or 10 years of making mistakes all the time before you can develop that.
Don't worry about the form quite so much. Worry about the speed and worry about the ease of the operation. Once you get all of that going, then the form comes.
We got it down now. Let's get it down. Once we get it down, let's keep it there and roll it.
Nice.
Over and over and over and over.
One same way
And then those forms will get better and better and better. I've been working with glass now for 40 years. And of course the work started small and it got larger and larger. And then at a certain point the pieces were just big enough, you know, they became hard to handle if they were any bigger. And around that same time I started doing architectural installations. I have a degree in interior design and architecture, and so I was very comfortable working in spaces. Even my smaller objects, you know, often kind of, I think of them as architectural because they'll have one part inside another. It was a very smooth transition to, you know, the installation started small, and then as we learned how to put things together, we quit making the parts big, and then we went back to making the parts small. So it's massing all that color together. When you look at the sun, and there's 1,000 or more parts in it, and there's that much yellow, and the sun is coming through it. You know, our artificial light is going through it. It just, you know, it's just a massive amount of yellow color, and it's this big, simple form. It just has a lot of power when you see it in that way. So it was a natural thing for me to you know, to go from the smaller works to the larger works. You know, I couldn't do 1/10 of what I'm doing if I didn't have a big team. So the complexity of the big shows takes a great team of people, and I've been very fortunate to, over the years, build that team. You know, maybe I got a little bit of that organizational ability from my dad, the butcher that was a union organizer, I don't know what, but I got very fortunate in being able to work with great people. I woke up one morning and said that I wanted to hang chandeliers over the canals of Venice. And then from that came the concept of working in different countries, making the chandeliers and taking them to Venice. The first country was Finland, the second was Ireland, the third was Mexico. It gave me an opportunity to build the chandeliers or make installations, and then right outside there were woods or rivers to work in. And I'd always worked outside to some degree, but since 1995, that's become a more important part of my work.
Free.
You take that idea, you make the decision to go with it, and go down that road, and you see what happens. And you know, sometimes it doesn't work. Most of the time, I've been fortunate that a lot of the projects have worked, or ideas have worked.
My family and I have been admirers of Dale and his work for many years, and his art has been symbolizing to visitors the creativity and the inspiration that lives and breathes in our city. Dale has designed something truly beautiful and inspiring for our community and the world, and personally, I can't wait to see the finished product.
So thanks again for coming. See you here next spring. Thank you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Chihuly Garden and Glass. First, I want to thank the Wright family for sponsoring this project. It's made up primarily of three parts. One is called the exhibition hall, which has nine separate rooms. The second part is the glass house, which I designed with Owen Richards and Ryan Smith. And the third part is the garden. The exhibition hall, the first room you come to is this white glass, a forest of white glass. It was a piece that I did in 1971, and I thought it would be interesting to have one of the really early installations in the project. The second room is kind of a remake of a room that's in my boathouse studio, Northwest Indian Room, which shows my Indian glass baskets on the wooden table and the sources that came from the woven baskets on the shelves, Pendleton blankets on the back wall, and Curtis photographs on the other two walls. We go on through the 8 houses, the 8 rooms, and we come to the glass house, which is 112 feet long and 43 feet high, and has just one main sculpture in the room, which is 100 feet long and 25 feet high. And from the glass house, you go out into the garden, and everything, by the way, is lit for night viewing as well as daylight. And the garden has about 8 installations, a green icicle tower, a raspberry tower, red reeds, lavender reeds, and a lot of miscellaneous parts throughout the garden. And here we are at the Collection Cafe, which is a cafe attached to the project that you don't necessarily have to be going into the project to eat at the cafe. And it has 28 different collections of mine built into the tables and on the walls. And it's open for lunch and dinner. And with that, I want to introduce my lovely wife, Leslie Chihuly.
Hello, thanks for having us today. I'm Leslie Chihuly. I'm president of Chihuly Studio, and I'm also the board chair for the Seattle Symphony. So I really visit you today as a very passionate advocate and friend for all of the arts and for this incredible arts community we enjoy every day in Seattle. Like all of you, Dale and I love the city. We love the city we live in, and we're so pleased to be able to contribute in a variety of ways. Seattle's one of the great cities on the planet. It's a special place because it's big enough to have a rich and diverse cultural scene, and it's small enough where people feel they can really make a difference here. We're all starters and builders in the city. Many of us in Seattle are newcomers, drawn by the spectacular nature and beauty, and kept here by work, careers, families, and the opportunity to participate in meaningful ways in the life of the city. With vision, talent, capital, combined with philanthropy and volunteerism, we have all created a community that attracts some of the best and brightest in the arts, medicine, technology, business, and entrepreneurism. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the World's Fair, where the builders and opinion makers of that time pointed to a bright future full of possibility, innovation, exploration, and achievement. In the last 50 years, many people have built the cultural institutions that we enjoy today. Imagine Seattle and Tacoma without McCaw Hall, without Benaroya Hall, without the restored Paramount, without the expanded Seattle Art Museum and the Sculpture Park, without the Tacoma Art Museum, the Museum of Glass, the Northwest African American Museum, the Frye Art Museum, the Intiman, the Rep, ACT, and so many other museums, galleries, theaters, and diverse organizations of all sizes contributing to the incredible diversity of our city. Another important anniversary that's happening right now is the 50th anniversary of the studio glass movement. A 2,000-year-old technology was about to be turned upside down and inside out with a small group of artists who began to experiment with the natural qualities of hot glass. They began to push the material beyond anything that anyone had ever seen or experienced historically. Testing and failing, being willing to try over and over again to achieve new scale, to use old techniques in new ways, gave birth to a movement and a new period in art history. We celebrated the 40th anniversary of the Pilchuck Glass School this past year. Co-founded by Dale, the school was built out of the dreams of a few artists combined with the generosity of Annie and John Halberg, who decided to contribute land and funds to some young people who had ideas, energy, and passion to create. We're so proud that as part of the founding of Chihuly Garden and Glass, we have a number of nonprofit partners, and Pilchuck was a very early partner of the project, and we look forward to all of the ways that we can partner with them. What you will see when you visit Chihuly Garden and Glass is the work of a lifetime of this incredible Northwest artist. It encompasses the education, the mentoring, the influences, inspiration, travels, and experiences of a lifetime spent looking at the world through an artist's sensibility. When Jeff Wright and his family came to us and invited us to look at the Fun Forest site, he invited us and our entire organization to participate in a process. We needed to make a case to the community about how private use of public land would be a benefit to the community as a whole. Person by person, group by group, at City Hall, in private and public gathering places, we began to speak to the importance of this project for kids, for fellow artists, for tourists, for families, for the city, and for the Seattle Center as a place where everyone could come and see what is possible when you have a commitment to making the world a more beautiful and aesthetic place. It says something about our city that we can recognize how one person's success as an artist means that others have that same opportunity to imagine new worlds and to see them take shape in a lifetime. We need to continuously, vigorously support our arts here in the city. We hope this project brings more visibility, not only to our founding partners, which include Pratt Fine Arts Center, Pilchuck, as I mentioned before, Arts Fund, and the Seattle Public Schools, but to all of the arts organizations in the community who exist to serve the educational, civic, and cultural needs of our city. We hope that it is a window into the very creative life of our city, and that it is a gathering place where more discussion and more advocacy for what we value can happen. Most of our arts organizations, as we all know, don't have the endowments of older institutions around the rest of the country. Our next big push as a region is going to be endow the cultural institutions we value so that we can sustain them for the generations to come. Dale and I believe that exposure to the arts should be part of everyone's educational experience, which is why we're excited about the Chihuly Garden and Glass partnership with the Seattle Public Schools. A science curriculum is being developed for middle school children, and we believe that the understanding that they will receive about creativity in themselves will help them in building the community and will translating it into a more productive life. We need to continue to make a case for the arts in our community. We don't take the arts for granted, and we remember that it is our arts that give the city its pulse. With the help and thinking of many creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial members of this community, I imagine that we can be the leaders for the rest of the world in terms of how to use existing public and private resources wisely and to leverage those resources for a sustainable cultural future. Now that it is open, the Chihuly Garden and Glass, we hope, will be a source of joy and inspiration for everyone in our city and that people who come to visit from other cities and countries around the world will see that Seattle is a place that supports its artists, its businesses, it can dream big dreams, and it can make them happen. Our invitation is for everyone to go out and participate in all kinds of art experiences, from exhibitions, music performances, film screenings, theater, dance, poetry. The beauty of creativity is that it has many languages, and the more people are exposed, the more they make connections to leading a creative life in all fields of endeavor. So thank you so much for having us. We invite you to all come and enjoy Chihuly Garden and Glass. We're looking forward to all of the ways that we can partner with all of the existing arts organizations in the city, and we're so lucky today that Michelle Bufano, the Executive Director of Chihuly Garden and Glass, is with us. We've got Jeff Wright with us today, and we're going to go into a Q&A. We'll invite Michelle to come up and join us for that. Thank you.
This is the first question. I'm curious if there are any other creative enclaves in the woods right now that are going to develop into this same situation 40 years from now.
Are you talking about Pilchuck?
Yeah.
Oh. Did you understand the question? Could you repeat the question for us one more time so that Dale can hear?
It's a wonderful thing that you started with an enclave in the woods and ended up in this place, and at Pilchuck. And I'm just wondering if there are things like this going on in the woods right now that we're not really aware of that'll turn into the next artistic bloom.
What do you think?
I'm sure there is, but I can't tell you that I know of any.
But you can tell them about what inspired you to start Pilchuck. You had another.
Oh, I got a small $2,000 grant to start Pilchuck. It was really going to be a one summer project, and the students, we had 16 students. Everybody had to build their own little place to live. We had no telephone, no electricity, and at the end of that summer, John Halberg said, "Let's take a walk." And he said, "How much money did you spend beyond the $2,000? And I said, "I owe $7,000 to the bank." And he said, "How much you want to do it next summer, to do it again?" And I said, $25,000. And he said, "Okay." He says, I'll pay off the bank and you've got the $25,000. He did that for 10 years in a row. The budget's now $2.7 million.
That's pretty incredible.
We have a question here from Laura.
Thank you. Will the spectacular installations we see today be changed over time, or are they permanently in place there?
Can speak to that. Will the exhibition change? Will the installations
You
change?
know, we haven't really decided whether we're going to change it and how often we'll change it. We're sort of waiting to see how it feels.
But let me jump in. There's more to the story. When we first put it up, I mean, Dale came in and would say, that just doesn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll say that it's already been changing. Sorry, Dale. But when it first came in, things would be up there, and Dale goes, it has to be a little bit more translucent, or I want to see, a little bit more of these colors. And so it was very exciting on the construction aspect or on the installation aspect to see the exhibit constantly change. And I mean, last night we took a group through, and I was looking at some of the art balls that I thought, wow, those weren't there when we first started. And so I'll say that it's even evolving right now as we get it going.
Well, that's definitely true. We're still fine-tuning the project. There's no doubt about that. And it would be, it might be very interesting to have some of the rooms change out. I just can't make any promises.
All right, next question over here.
I want to thank both of you for everything you do in our community for the arts. Tremendous. And also University of Washington graduate here. And Dale, you did tremendous sets for Seattle Opera many years ago. Any hope for you to do any more in the future?
What was it?
Will you do more sets for opera? You could. Well, we just did the Bluebeard.
No, tell her about that.
I don't know if you're aware that the Seattle Symphony commissioned Dale to do sets for Bluebeard's Castle, which is a one-act opera by Bartók, and we were really fortunate that the opera production was able to return to Seattle just recently, in fact, just a week before the opening of Chihuly Garden and Glass, and that has gone to Israel, it's gone to Milwaukee, it's gone to Nashville and a few other places. So it's really exciting when you see that happen and how it works in communities to sort of revitalize programming in all these different institutions.
And I would love to see the Peleas and Melisande opera be redone.
We have a question here from Bob.
I was in Venice in Murano a number of years ago, and they were talking about the fact that in Italy they've changed the child labor laws, and so a lot of the young artists who started were now not able to start at that age. And the guy running the glass-blowing studio said, we're really seeing an amazing decline in the glass-blowing skills of our people. And I said, so what's going to happen? He had no idea where I was from, and he said, well, we look to Seattle. We think Seattle is going to take glass to the next level. And so it was really amazing because he had no idea I was from Seattle. Where do you see glass going? What innovations do you have up your sleeve for the future?
Well, I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I will say that you're right in the fact that Venice has gone downhill, unfortunately, not just because of child labor laws, but just has to do with the whole economy. And it's not just Venice, it's other great glass centers in the world. And the opposite has happened here. We have something like 100 glass shops in the greater Seattle area, and we have some of the best glass blowers in the world. So we are kind of carrying on the tradition of what Venice always did. But now we've been very lucky to have some of the best Venetian glass blowers working here, first at Pilchuck, but Lino Taglia Pietra, considered maybe the best glass blower in the world, has a studio and a condo in Seattle, and he makes all his work here in Seattle.
Another question over here, please.
Dale, your Tacoma Art Museum installation was so spectacular, and it was there for a while, and then it was, disassembled. Was any of it used in the Seattle Center creation, or did it go anywhere else? Can you speak to that? It was just spectacular.
Yes and no. One of the 8 rooms at the Garden and Glass is called Mille Fiori, which means 1,000 flowers, and that first started off that project, that body of work at the Tacoma Art Museum. That's the one you're referring to, I think. And I have an installation somewhat like that, different glass, but it feels a lot the same way. And that project does continue to be toured. It goes next to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, and then to the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts.
We have a question here from Don.
Thanks for being here. Maybe this is even a question for our earlier speaker, but tourists and convention goers that come to Seattle, I'm sure, go to the Space Needle and the market and Harbor Tour and so forth. Where do you envision the new museum being in that list of attractions for Seattle?
We're going to be number 1, said Jeff Wright. No, I will tell you that so far we haven't been open very long, so we don't have a lot of numbers yet. But we are having about 65% tourism right now, which is great. Summer hasn't hit that much. And Dan McConnell, who's with us today, I think we were just listed in the Post. Is that right? For one of the top architectural museums in the country. We were listed in 1 out of 6, I think. So we're shooting for number 1. Hopefully that is.
Question from Dan over here.
Yesterday, I had the fabulous experience of going through your garden and exhibit, and I noticed a lot of young school children, and I noticed you signing the programs for them. When the presentation was made, you mentioned that you're thinking of educational programs for the students. Can you give us an idea of how you were thinking of using the exhibit as an educational experience for children?
We're going to let Michelle speak to that one too, because she's really responsible for developing these programs on site.
So one of the wonderful, generous things that this exhibition will bring is a free science curriculum to middle school students. We plan on having 20,000 middle school students for the next 5 years. We're developing a curriculum with both science, math, and art teachers, working directly with their instructors to develop the curriculum and sharing that with the middle schools across our city. So that's just one way. And the group that you saw, I'm glad that you got to see that. That was absolutely phenomenal. They had just finished an art project in their class. They were so excited, and then to come upon Dale and Leslie was just a great experience for them. But we do have programming as well planned for younger kids through activity guides.
Yeah, I'm so happy when I see, I probably get every couple of 3 weeks I get something in the mail where a class as young as first graders have looked at videos of my projects, and then they take it upon themselves to build things. They take like styrofoam cups and paint them to make a chandelier, and they're very creative about how they go about it, and it's just, so gratifying to see that.
Question from Steve over here.
Our table has 2 questions. Mine is, can you tell us how many distinguished places in the world that your art is now residing? And the other one is, how in the world do you build a 100-foot piece of glass, and were there some oops moments along the way?
Well, I'm in a lot of countries if you count how many museums I'm in. I'm probably in 50 different countries. As far as current exhibitions, it's usually in a couple of other countries. And the sculpture is hanging from those beautiful white beams that are going up above it. And there's actually made up of 5 different segments that intertwine. 1,430 pieces.
So we have time for 1 or 2 more questions.
Dale,
Anybody
I had
else?
a quick question for you. I've been inspired. I've never blown glass before. Are there opportunities for novices where we can go, and where would you suggest we go to get that first lesson on how to create something?
Well, oh, there we go. Yes, Michelle.
She knows. Our founding partners, Pratt Fine Arts Center, has classes available for the public. And then once you become a little bit better, Pilchuck would be probably your next try.
Just a weekend later.
Yeah.
Got one more question over here. Or Cindy, do you have one? Go ahead.
Thank you. Ken Grant.
When you say there's 1,400 plus pieces, and I presume you've built it somewhere off-site, you bring it. If you happen to break one piece, do you have extras? Do you run back? How do you repair a broken piece? Sorry to have to ask.
We have extras.
Do it.
In fact, I remember Dale going down and deciding he didn't like the opacity of some of the pieces, so he actually replaced a number of the pieces so that the light would shine through them a little bit better in the glass house. One more?
Dale, you're one of many that have come out of the Pilchuck School. You obviously were the initial one. Is there any thought of bringing in some of the key artists that came out of the Pilchuck School as part of your glass exposition?
Well, we haven't completely decided what our educational program is going to be like as far as other artists. We have that beautiful space in the glass house, which is completely open on the bottom, so you can have about 400 or 500 people in there set up for a talk or a party. We have a smaller audiovisual room, which we'll use to have speaking and perhaps have functions for young people. We're working on all that now. It's not set.
Seattle Rotary Online is made possible in part by a grant from First Choice Health, working with the Washington Health Information Collaborative to use technology to bring better health care to patients throughout the Pacific Northwest. First Choice Health.